Okay, y'all, I'm back with part two of my the story I was telling about when my uncle inappropriately doing stuff to me. So like I said, well, I think I left off with once I I think I left with off with even though I was 7 years old, I knew it was still wrong. All HELL broke loose in my family because I told. Because back then I was raised by old school, and they was very firm on what happens in the house stays in the house. You know what I'm saying? So, but I still knew it was wrong. So I told. I came forth and told. I told my mom first. So, excuse me. Of course, my mother. You know what I'm saying? Her as a mom. First of all, let me back up a little bit. My grandmother was the type of person that she took all her kids' children from them and raised us, which is her grandkids. So she raised all her grandkids. Well, most of her grandkids by choice, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, I don't even know if our parents had a matter in the situation because she was grandma. You know what I'm saying? She was their mom. You know what I'm saying? And I don't care how old you get when you're raised in the South. You listen to your parents. I don't care how old you get. You know, you're never too grown to listen to your parents or whatever. So I told my mom, you know what I'm saying, and she instantly, my mom, mind you now, my mom was sick. My mom was on the oxygen machine. My grandmother and them did not like the guy that my mom was dating because they said he used to beat her or whatever. I never saw it, you know what I'm saying, because like I said, my grandma had us. My grandma took us from our mom. But I think that's the reason why. But at the same time, she still raised all the kids that she gave birth to, you know what I'm saying? If the parents was willing, she raised their children, which is her grandchildren, you know. But anywho, my grandma really wouldn't let me go see my mom, you know what I'm saying? So I would have to go because she didn't like the boyfriend. So she wouldn't let me or my sister go see my mom. So because I think she didn't like the boyfriend, so she kept us away from my mom. My mom would have to come over there to see us if she wanted to see us. So anyway, I used to sneak and go see my mom. And when my grandmother found out, I would get a whipping. I ain't gonna say whipping, because them wasn't whippings back then. Them was beatings. Because they beat us with switches, whatever they got their hands on back then. There wasn't no child abuse laws then. You know, so my grandmother would peel the leaves off the switch and plait them together in a braid, in a plait, and chop. You know, these was long switches now. Don't no little small, wasn't no little small switches. It was long switches. Where if she swung, she caught hold to you with the switch. So anyway, I told my mom. So my mom, even though she was sick, she drugged the machine. I don't know if she found a ride over there or whatever, but she ended up coming over there. After I told my mom, I went back to my grandmother's house. I didn't actually know my mom was gonna go over there. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, my mom came over there sick and all, and she was like, she just started going off like as a parent should. You know what I'm saying? Whether they're raising their children or not. You know what I'm saying? She still was in our life, like I said, but she had to come over there and see us. We couldn't go over there. So my mom came over there raising all kind of sin, you know what I'm saying, asking where he was at. It's like, my daughter told me that he did this or that to her or whatever, and she's 7 years old. Why would she make up? They was like, my grandma was trying to say I lied or whatever. But my mom was like, well, how can a 7-year-old come up with a lie like that? You know what I'm saying? And go into details or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So, that caused my mom to be the black sheep. Now, his mom, which is my great-grandma, he was her favorite child, you know what I'm saying? Even though I guess because he had seizures or whatever, but he was her favorite child. So even though he did all kind of stuff he was crazy. Even though he would do all kind of stuff to people, and the neighbors would come tell her what happened or whatever, she still would defend him. She would still say that her child didn't do it or whatever. Even if they proved it, that the scars proved that he did it, and she would still say that he didn't cut the people or whatever, because he used to make people bleed, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, I don't even know how to say cut people on YouTube. But anyway, so because that was her favorite child, she started being rebellious. Now, mind you, now remember, don't forget the part I said back then, what went on in the house supposed to stay in the house. So it didn't take long for the neighborhood. Like if a person passed by and they could hear the yelling, you know what I'm saying, they're going to automatically know what's going on. So it didn't take long for it to get out. You know what I'm saying? So I went to school, and because I was damaged down there, you know what I'm saying? So I went to school. I showed my mom that and everything. And back then, people didn't wash clothes every day. You know what I'm saying? Like you had to, because I guess we had to worry about the water bill. So they would wash clothes like once a week or longer than that, once or 2 weeks, once a month. Especially when you had a lot of people in the house. You couldn't really afford to wash clothes every day. Either you had to go to the laundromat if you didn't have one of those washing machines that you had to manually put the clothes in one by one to kind of dry them out a little bit. I don't know the name of it. But anyway, somebody around my age would know what I'm talking about. But anyway, long story short, so I guess neighbors was passing by and they could hear the commotion or whatever, and he could hear what was saying and all that. But no, also I went to school and I told my teacher. So that's when the investigation, the police started coming around investigating and everything. But they found the proof, you know what I'm saying? Because like I said, because the laundry wasn't being washed every day, my underwear was still in the laundry, you know what I'm saying? So they did an investigation or whatever, you know what I'm saying? They went around looking for him. They would look for him, they finally found him. Now, mind you, my great-grandmother, his mom my mom became the black sheep. And because she was great-grandma, everybody would listen to her, so everybody would start being mean towards my mom or whatever. I didn't, you know what I'm saying? Because that was my mom. You know, and I wanted to be with my mom anyway. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to live with my mom. But, because other people was living with their moms. So I felt different anyway, you know what I'm saying? I felt like an outcast amongst my school friends and everybody else because they was living at home. You know what I'm saying? Some had their mom and dad in the same household, and some still just had their moms, but either way it go, they lived with their parents. Their parents that gave birth to them. So because my grandmother and my great-grandmother and her pride, you know what I'm saying, didn't want the neighbors to know or whatever, so she made my mom the black sheep, and she's still saying that my son didn't do that. So the investigation proved that he did do it. You know, I had to take them to where he took me, where it happened at, and everything, you know what I'm saying, and they, sure as day, with the leaves and everything that was on the ground. Now, mind you, he didn't put down no sheet, none of that. You know what I'm saying? I've seen that kind of stuff on TV. Now, that's why I said put down the sheet. But his evidence was on the grass, still on the leaves where he had me at or whatever. Because like I said, even though the path, it was right on the side of the path that you had to take in order to get from where we lived at to the projects, that hadn't been tampered, you know what I'm saying? It hadn't been touched or whatever. Nobody walked over there on that section or whatever. So it was still evidence there, you know what I'm saying? So they ended up finding him, and he went to prison. They locked him up or whatever. Because I was young, you know what I'm saying, and all that. I didn't know nothing about court or none of that stuff anyway. But because I came forth, some of the other ones and other young females in the family came forth and told that he had been doing it to them too. So it took me, a little 7-year-old, to come out and tell what he did to me in order for them to come forth and say that he did it to me too. You know what I'm saying? So eventually, like I said, he did end up doing 8 years. So this whole time, my great grandmother not contacting my mom or whatever. My mom ended up passing away on December 13th, 1987. So anyway, I was 10 going on 11. I would have been 11 that February. But anyway, I had a lot of resentments. That's another story. You know what I'm saying? A lot of hurt behind that because my dad wasn't in my life. You know what I'm saying? There to protect me from this, what happened to me, what my uncle did to me. I had resentments and hatred towards him for a long time. That's a whole nother story too. He wasn't in my life, y'all. So keep that in mind for further stories. My dad was not in our lives. He had moved away. He was in a whole nother state, in New Jersey somewhere, you know what I'm saying, on drugs or whatever. But anyway, like I said, they came and did their investigation and everything and found out that I was telling the truth and everything, that So he like I said, he went to prison. He did 8 years. So when he got out, mind you now, let me backtrack again. My mom became the black sheep of the family. You know what I'm saying? I would have to sneak and go see her. I would get a whipping when I got back. But I guess my grandmother saw that the whippings wasn't, the beatings wasn't stopping me from going to sneak to see my mom. So she stopped beating me. So during the course of the investigation of the rape, I ended up, of my uncle disrespecting me down there, I ended up being going to stay with my mom. You know what I'm saying? So I stayed with her. Like I said, they was trying to say that my mom's boyfriend was abusive to her. I never seen him hit her, y'all. I don't know if it was because I was there or whatever, but I never seen him hit her, and he treated me like I was one of his own. Every holiday, every birthday, and Christmas, I remember them coming up the street with gifts for me for my birthday and Christmases. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what they was talking about. But anyway, mom came to Black Sheep. That's another story about him bringing me gifts or whatever. He never touched me though. Don't try to think ahead, because he tried to protect me during that time. He went looking for my great uncle, and so did one of my dad's sisters. You know what I'm saying? She was walking around with her piece, going from place to place wherever she thought he would be at, looking for him. You know what I'm saying? But this was before they locked him up. But he went to prison. He got locked up. But anyway, so he got out, y'all. And I think like maybe 2 years after he got out, I didn't have nothing to do with him. I wouldn't be around him or none of that. You know what I'm saying? So I think he passed like a couple of years after he got out. So they made me go to the funeral. I came up with excuses like I ain't had nothing to wear or none of that. Because at this time, I was a little up age now. You know what I'm saying? I could dress myself and say what I didn't want to put on, all that. So I came up. I had something to wear, but I lied and said I didn't. So somebody in the family went and bought me the whole setup to wear to the funeral or whatever. And they said that I was going to church a little bit. That's a different thing. Y'all, speaking of church, I'm going to tell y'all, it was a reason why I stopped going to church back then. Trust and believe, but that's another story. But I got y'all. Like I said, I'm willing to talk about this stuff and be honest and completely honest and vulnerable in the front of y'all, because I've healed. You know what I'm saying? I've healed. My life, God is good. Just let me say, because it's only through His grace and His mercy and His unconditional love for me that I didn't take myself out. I tried. That's another story. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, at a young age too, during all this was going on. During this time where they was police investigating me and all that, and I'm overwhelmed. I didn't know about the word overwhelmed then, but I'm getting tired of them coming to bother me, ask me questions about him, and I kept having to take them back to the place where it happened at over and over again, and then they digging through dirt clothes trying to get evidence and all that. That was embarrassing for one, because we lived in a neighborhood and people are nosy, because people are gonna come outside anyway. You know what I'm saying? They can see them taking the evidence out and stuff. They had it in a bag, but you could see through the bag. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh, mom became the black sheep or whatever. I lied. I mean, fast forward. He got out of prison. He died he ended up passing away 2 years or so after he got out. So anyway, they made me go to the funeral. I was still young enough. I still had to listen to the older people in my family. And I never disrespected my elders. That's one thing I didn't play. My grandmother didn't raise us like that. And that was big down south. You don't disrespect your elders. I don't care who they are. You do not disrespect your elders, and you listen to them. And back then, if somebody else had to punish you, and it really did take a village to raise a child, because another adult in the neighborhood had to punish you, when you got back home, you got another whipping because somebody else had to chastise you or whatever. And they didn't get mad. They didn't say, go back, why you hit my child or why you hit my grandchild? They thanked them for doing it, and now I'm about to get hold to them too, because you had to, you know what I'm saying? Because they did something that they had no business doing. And if the adult, whatever the other adult said you did it, whether you did it or not, even if they lied on you, if they told your parents or grandparents or whoever was raising you that you did it, you did it. So, they made me go to the funeral, and I was going to church on Sundays. Our church used to come pick you up in a van, you know what I'm saying? But so I was going to church on Sundays, and I always heard you had to forgive people in order for God. If I didn't forgive, then God wasn't going to forgive me. I knew about God then, y'all, but I didn't know Him then. I just knew of him. That's a whole nother story. Y'all told y'all my life is a walking testimony, y'all. I promise y'all, and I really do pray that if I don't care if it's 10, 20, 30, 40 people, if I can just help one person, if just one person can get through it and be healed by my process, then that's job well done for me. You know what I'm saying? I've done my part. So they made me go to the funeral. I went to the funeral, and I went to his casket, and I cussed. I didn't. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. When I leaned over the casket, I was like, "I forgive you, MF." And I walked straight out of church. I didn't go back and sit in the seat or nothing. I walked straight out of church and went and sat in the family cars. You know how the family have the limos and all that stuff. I went and sat in the family car till the funeral was over. They didn't question me why I didn't come back in the church because they knew. They knew. Even though years had passed, they knew why I didn't come back in the church. So after the funeral, you know how everybody go to the graveyard, and then I was smiling, y'all. When they was putting him in the ground, I was sitting there smiling. I don't even know if somebody saw me, but I was smiling, you know what I'm saying? I was smiling because I was like, I ain't got to worry about him doing that to me no more. And he don't get to do that to none of the other people in the family, the other girls in the family. Matter of fact, he don't get to do that to nobody else. You know what I'm saying? That was my thinking then. Like I said, I was young. I was full of bitterness, hatred. I was angry. All kind of emotions and feelings all wrapped up in one. But God. That's a different story. That's another story that's going to come up later on in the stories that I have for y'all. But anyway, so we went back to the house or whatever. You know how you go back to the family house after the burial and everything. Everybody gathered together or whatever. I didn't even want a part of that, so I don't know where I went at, but I got away from everybody, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if I went to my aunt's house. I don't know where I went at, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, I didn't go back around them until like later on when all the company and everybody left. And it was like time to wind down and go to bed. But anyway, yeah, y'all, that happened to me when I was 7 years old, and it's sad that I know now that people are sick. People are really sick. Mental health is real. You know what I'm saying? Because it takes a sick individual to do something to somebody like that in their family. Like somebody you're supposed to nurture and protect and make sure nobody else do no harm to them. But yet you turn around and do it. You know what I'm saying? And you lived in the same house. Sometimes you spent the night, sometimes you was right at grandma's house, and that was a couple of steps, and you were there, you know what I'm saying, at grandma's house. So that had me feeling a certain type of way towards men. That's going to be my next story, y'all, coming up. My thoughts about men, what I portrayed, what I thought about men and how I was supposed to treat men and how men were supposed to treat me. So on that note, y'all, like once again, my name is Kenya. I'm new to this, you know what I'm saying? I have no idea what I'm doing, but it's been on my heart to like just get on here and start telling my stories and sharing my testimonies so that it can probably help somebody else. In the future, it will, you know, but just know if anybody that's going through this is listening or watching this, just know it wasn't your fault. The person that did it to you, it was not your fault. You didn't say yes. You didn't give consent. You didn't say, yeah, come on, let's do this. Or, yeah, you could touch me. So it's not your fault. Don't blame yourself. But you have to forgive the person. Because if the person is holding on to unforgiveness and being bitter towards this person, it's just keeping you sick and stuck in that area in your life. And this person is going on and moving along with their life, having a good time, ain't thinking nothing of it, but you're still sick, making yourself physically and mentally sick because you can't move forward from what happened. It's not your fault. You did nothing to deserve it. The individual that did it to you was sick, whether it was a relative, a relationship, a male or a female, whatever your preference is, that you're in a relationship with. Even then, if you don't consent, no means no. It's not your fault if they do it anyway. So the forgiveness is for you. It's not for them, you know. And it's hard to forgive, but you'll feel better. When you know, when I said when I said I forgive him, I only did it because that's what I heard in church. But as I got older, a whole lot older, this after I got saved, years after I got saved, when I finally forgave him, y'all, and I was good and grown when I finally did. That's a whole nother story. But for right now, you know what I'm saying, I pray if someone's going through this, or you can relate, or got a loved one that's going through it, tell them it's not their fault. The person was sick. The person is sick and they need help. But they got to forgive them in order to move on. And the forgiveness is for themselves, not for the other person. So until next time, y'all, thanks for listening. And I will be back. Like I said, I'm new to this. I'm just learning how to do it. I don't even know if I'm doing it right. But I have a video already on there, and I think it's called Kenya's Courage. So y'all go ahead and check that video out. Subscribe. Hit the post notification buttons, and give a thumbs up and leave a comment. See, I know I probably even said that right. And leave a comment below, you know what I'm saying? And I'll have any questions or comments, I'll answer them to the best of. I'll actually make this a Q&A sometime in the future or whatever. But have a blessed rest of your day on purpose, and don't let nobody or nobody steal your joy.